Hi, Acadiana. Meteorologist Dave Baker. Welcome to your Thursday edition of Let's Talk Tropics. Got a little bit more here to talk about than we did yesterday. Not just Tropical Storm Erin, but we've also got Disturbance 98L, which is out over the Bay of Campeche right now. Thanks, David, for that question earlier. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes right now. Not very concerned about that. We talked about it as it was a bit of a wave over the Yucatan yesterday, but today, it does have a designated disturbance number there, that 98L, but really don't think it's going to last very long as it's going to continue to drift westward and should move into Mexico sometime late tomorrow or early Saturday. So a lot to talk about. Yeah, we've got partly cloudy skies here in Lafayette, 90 degrees at my house with a heat index of 100, dew point right now 75, humidity 63%. Had a little shower about an hour ago while the sun stayed out the entire time. So as you can imagine, it feels really awesome outside today. Feels more like a steam bath out there. Not much help from the winds either out of the west-southwest at only 3 and the pressure holding at 30.03. So as we look at the radar, we do have showers and thunderstorms that are out there. I'll go ahead and put this into motion and you can see that it's mainly spotty stuff. And a lot of this is along and south of the I-10 corridor. And we've got some showers that are starting to develop over Cenla as well. But I think the bulk of the rain is going to be along and south of 190 this time around, and most of the action will come in from the southwest and move off toward the northeast. So a pretty decent chance for rain. Going to go ahead and keep that rain chance at about 50% for you for today. Elsewhere, really most of the spotty stuff is still kind of located where that tropical wave, upper trough, and a bit of another trough that's over the Arklatex that stretches for the middle part of the country. So it is still a little bit unstable here locally, and that'll keep some of those scattered showers and thunderstorms going. On the roadways, at least here in Lafayette and over toward Brobridge and Henderson, everything's looking okay right now. Same goes as we look at the westbound traffic there from Ambassador Caffrey and Opelousas and Alexandria right now looking okay for traveling. But again, as you know, in the summertime, you take a long trip across southwest Louisiana or south central Louisiana, you end up hitting one of those storms. It lasts for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then you're out of it. You're back in the sunshine. So that's what we're going to be talking about for most of the weather forecast locally here for the remainder of the weekend. So yes, as we talked about, there is a bit of a disturbance. It's now over the Bay of Campeche. It really isn't a whole lot to be concerned with. It's all kind of a part of this tropical wave, but looks like more of a low pressure area is kind of catching up with that wave a little bit. This coming in from the Caribbean, crossing the Yucatan yesterday, and then getting there into the southern part of the Gulf. So far, we're not seeing any organization at all. It is going to bring some significant rain over the waters there, and eventually it's going to be bringing some significant rain there to the coast of Mexico. And right now it does appear that most of this is going to be staying south of the Rio Grande Valley, but you can see that it is a bona fide disturbance, and it's a cluster of thunderstorms and a trough of low pressure. It's also over an area that tends to have much warmer waters and also some higher heat content, so that's why it's got the designation as a disturbance, and it is going to be watched. But for the most part, I'm not expecting a whole lot to come out of this. If it were going to be sitting there for 2 or 3 days, I think maybe we would have something. But since it's probably going to roll back over land here in Mexico sometime tomorrow, most likely we're not going to be seeing anything developing there. So at this point, there's no threat to our area either. The forecast tracks kind of drag it there off toward maybe the Rio Grande Valley. And as far as the intensity models, you can see just about all of them keep it lower than a tropical depression. A couple of them get up to tropical depression status, but that's about it. So again, something to watch. Those are areas that we do tend to watch a little more carefully this time of the year too, because if something were to develop and it was going to be coming more in our direction, we wouldn't have 7, 8, 10, 14 days to watch it. It would be more like 2 or 3. So that's why I always say you got to be ready for anything to come along here, especially if you get something that's a little more homegrown like that to develop and come closer. So it's always best to have the basics ready for you just in case something were to fire up. Good example, you go all the way back to June of 1957. We had Hurricane Audrey that developed there and then rapidly moved off toward the north. We've had other tropical systems that have developed as well, even closer to the coast. I believe back in 2007, we had a named storm that developed and went from really nothing to a Category 1 hurricane within about 18 hours and made landfall on the upper Texas coast. We talked about that storm system a while back, but again, that's always the reason why you need to have your supplies ready to go, even though things usually are developing much, much farther away. And as far as any boating, I don't think that disturbance down there is going to have any issues with us. Winds are still going to be light out of the southwest at 5 to 10 knots, seas running about 1 to 2 feet. So let's go ahead and take a tour of the northern Gulf Coast to get another gorgeous day over in Florida, Panama City Beach, and you work your way westward over toward Orange Beach. A little bit of a rough sea there, but not too bad. And you can see there's not as many showers and thunderstorms. Camera this time looking off toward the west. Dauphin Island looking pretty good today, as well as Cocodrie, but Cocodrie, we're starting to see some of those showers and thunderstorms popping up in the coastal waters, so I think those folks over there at Lumcon will probably see some rain today. And I think the same thing over toward Galveston. I think there's going to be some scattered showers and thunderstorms in our western waters as well. So that trough is going to stay in place, and that'll keep the moisture values quite high today, but high pressure is going to build over the next couple of days, and things are going to really calm down and heat up. So let's look at Central America. Very, very quiet. Really not a lot going on with some rains pushing off the Costa Rican coast. That's going to push into the Pacific, so not too concerned about that. Bit of a tropical wave kind of crossing its way over the northern Windward Islands, or the Leeward Islands rather, and the Virgin Islands as well. And then you can start to see Tropical Storm Erin now making its way into the picture there of the Caribbean. So you can see that it's made quite the haul across the Atlantic Ocean in a very short period of time. Its forward speed has been running there about 17, 18 miles per hour. So it's moving across the ocean at a really good clip. And a lot of times when you have these systems move this fast, it is a little bit harder for them to get themselves organized. But we do think there's going to be a little bit of a slowdown. It's also moving into an area of water that is probably a little bit more conducive for development, with some higher water temperatures and also some higher heat content. And it's also going to be a much more moist environment and a little bit less wind shear here, at least over the next 24 to 48 hours. So I would expect some serious intensification there of Tropical Storm Erin, and we do expect it to be a hurricane tomorrow, and then it's going to still steadily increase its strength and could be a major hurricane a little bit farther down the road. As far as the eastern Atlantic, we've got another pretty good wave here coming off of the African coast. At this point, most of the models really aren't showing a whole lot of development with this, but we'll keep an eye on that as it continues to make its way off toward the west here over the next couple of days. So outside of Tropical Storm Erin and that little disturbance 98L that's over the southern part of the Bay of Campeche, we don't have anything else that we think is going to develop here this week. We'll watch those tropical waves off Africa that might have a chance a little bit farther down the road. So let's focus our attention again on Tropical Storm Erin, which is the big player that's out there right now, and you can see it is a lot more organized today with more convection around the center. Yesterday it was kind of a naked storm moving off toward the west. It had a great swirl at the low levels, but it just wasn't covered by the showers and thunderstorms. So it looks like it's intensifying, or at least putting on its clothes this time around, and it's going to continue to drift its way off toward the west very rapidly, rounding the bottom of a ridge of high pressure that's out over the central part of the Atlantic. Official National Hurricane Center forecast shows more of a west-northwest track, and we could be talking about a hurricane as early as tomorrow morning. By the way, the current coordinates are there on the left-hand side of your screen, and the rest of the particulars there, the winds and the pressure. But you can see here as we get into Sunday, it will be passing north of Puerto Rico. And the good news is the cone doesn't really touch those northern Leeward Islands. Now, it doesn't mean to, let your guard down if you live in Puerto Rico or if you live in the Virgin Islands or the northern part of the Caribbean. You really don't want to let your guard down yet, especially if you live over toward the Bahamas and even the southeast coast of the United States. All of the models are still calling of a curve around that big ridge of high pressure. And there's also going to be another ridge in the upper levels that's going to be building across the U.S. southeast. So in between there, that might be the escape route for it to start to turn poleward, which is what all tropical storms and hurricanes are trying to do. But they got to find the path of least resistance to get there. So at this point, it does look like the Bahamas may be spared. But again, you don't want to let your guard down yet. Same thing for the U.S. East Coast. Don't let your guard down, but this does look like a much better picture than what we were seeing, let's say, late last week. And even Bermuda needs to be still keeping an eye on it. But I will say that some of the forecasts that I'm seeing here are looking a little bit better for Bermuda. But again, when you're stuck out there in the middle of the Atlantic on that small island like that, you do want to be paying close attention to anything that would come in that direction. Intensity models are really ramping it up here in the next 24 to 36 hours, and just about every single one of our model guidance is showing at least a hurricane, and several of these are going with major hurricane coming up about 3 days down the road. And there's a look at some of the track models. Again, these are the deterministic models, so each one of these is a different model, and each one of these runs is their absolute guess. So there's only one solution here for each one of these models. Now, fortunately, we've got a lot of different models to look at. The more tools you have, the better forecasting you can do. And when they're all in agreement like this, especially for the first 3 days, there's really no reason that there's going to be much of a change in the track. There is a little bit more of a change in the track as you get out to 3 days, and it does spread out a little bit more, at least according to these deterministic models. Though, again, it misses the Caribbean, it's going to miss the East Coast, and if we're lucky, it's going to miss Bermuda too, which is kind of stuck out there. So let's hope that these models are correct, and this is what we end up seeing the final solution being, because this would avoid all areas of land, because there's the potential that this could be a seriously intense hurricane here in the next couple of days. Another worry about the possibility of this strengthening is it is going to be moving into considerably warmer waters. So the sea surface temperature is getting up there about 85, 86, 87 degrees. You've also got some high heat content, even there north of Puerto Rico into the Virgin Islands, and then especially as you get a little farther to the west over the Bahamas. If it can tap into some of that, you might even see even more intensification. But right now, it looks like it's going to possibly stay away from some of that deepest heat potential that's out there. And we're also dealing with some shear around the center of that. This is the shear that we're looking at right now. You got some easterly shear there on the southern side of it, but it is going to be moving into an area that's got considerably less wind shear. So that's why the thinking is, as you move over the warmer waters, you move over an area that's got less wind shear, you move over an area that's got more heat content, and the atmosphere is a lot more moist in that area too. So all of those coming together should set the stage for some strengthening with Tropical Storm Erin, and likely we'll be talking about Hurricane Erin as we go into Friday. So the Ensemble suites, really showing pretty good agreement. Now, remember what the Ensemble is. This is a little bit different than our track models here, because remember, these are, 7 to 10, maybe 15 completely different models, and this is what their solution is, but it only produces one solution. When you look out at the Ensemble maps, it's the same model running over and over and over again, but there are little tweaks in there because we all know things are going to change in the atmosphere. So the black line you see in the middle is pretty much the average of all of the what-ifs that this particular model ran. So again, this is the same calculations, but it's just a little bit of a tweak somewhere within the forecast period to show you some of the what-ifs there. So that's what we're looking at with the American model, and this is what we're looking at with the European model. So fortunately, even some of those outlying ones that go a little bit closer to the East Coast, that's what, in the Bahamas, that's why I say don't let your guard down yet if you're in those areas, but you still also want to focus on where the bulk of those lines are on both of these Ensemble models. The majority of them keep the system offshore, so that's a good sign. Bermuda, the Bahamas, I would be the most concerned with as a possibility of maybe something coming a little bit closer. So let's go ahead and look at some of the other model solutions that we have, and we're going to start with the European model, and you see where Erin is there, east of the islands, there in the Atlantic. So we'll just kind of forward this just a little bit, and the European model does keep it north of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. It's a close miss, but again, being close like that there will be some minor impacts, probably gusty winds, rougher seas, maybe some coastal flooding. And the same would go for the Bahamas here as we start to get into the early part of next week. Now we're here by about Wednesday, and that's where it looks like the hurricane would probably get its best chance for intensification. At this point, it moves just to the west of Bermuda. The southern side of that storm would probably batter Bermuda a little bit, but it would not be a direct hit, and then eventually it would work its way out to sea. So that's your European solution. You see that big curve around the ridge of high pressure and then quickly getting caught up by in the westerlies, and then whoop, it just kind of zips its way off toward the east-northeast and out into the open waters of the Atlantic. So we'll back it up again. We'll go with the American model, and let's get it up to today. Today is Thursday, so this is about where we are right now. And you can see that the American model still is relatively close to the Virgin Islands. That's a little bit too close for comfort, but it takes more of a turn away from the Bahamas. So on this particular model, you've got a little bit more of a threat to Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands and a little less threat to the Bahamas. And fortunately, this does kind of work its way just to the west of Bermuda. But I'm going to try to show you where Bermuda is on this map, and it's kind of hard to see, but it's right about there, right where that little circle is, right to the east of the low pressure area. So with the GFS model, that puts Bermuda a little bit closer to the crosshairs before it moves off out into the middle part of the Atlantic. And then you can see there's a couple of other lows. The American model is showing a couple of other lows out there in the Atlantic with some of that tropical wave activity coming across. Maybe something trying to work its way over toward the Gulf. But you're talking about, this is beyond, what is this? This is going out 370 something hours or something like that. So that's a long way out. Don't kind of disregard what you're looking at there. And as far as the other two models, the Canadian model, we'll grab that one here real quick, bring it up to today, and then you see this one also comes pretty close to Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, pretty close to the Bahamas. This one actually brings more of a hit to Bermuda and then kind of moves its way off to the east. So I would put this pretty close to what we're looking at with the GFS, where the European model is bringing things a little bit farther away from all land areas. The GFS and the Canadian model are both bringing it a little bit too close for comfort. So we'll finish off with the icon here. And the icon, again, very close to the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, and then it actually goes pretty close to the Bahamas too. And this is the farthest west of all of our solutions. You can see how that gets pretty close to the U.S. East Coast, but remember the icon only goes out 7 days, so we can't see quite as far out, but at least in what we're most concerned with Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, the Bahamas, and the U.S. East Coast, the icon is the one that seems to be a little bit more threatening to everyone, with the exception of Bermuda. So there's a lot of differences, but there's a lot of similarities. So at this point, it's just something to be watched. We know pretty much for certain that this is not going to be coming into the Gulf waters, so that's not anything to worry about, at least for right now. Now, looking a little bit farther ahead, as you see there where the darker blues are, which is indicating 90 to 100% that a tropical system will pass through that area, that is all part of what would be Erin. And again, this is starting next week, so this is any tropical system from this coming Monday to the following Monday, which is August the 25th. So we already know we're going to have something sweeping through the western part of the Atlantic. That's pretty certain right now. But if you do look back to the east, over off the African coast, it is starting to light up a little bit more into that 50 to 60% range that something else will be coming off of the African coast sometime during the week next week. So that's something we'll be watching. And of course, that's exactly where most of our tropical systems either develop or go during the month of August. And August is usually a pretty busy month. On average, we have 4 named storms during August and 4 named storms during the month of September. So it could become a busy month. Fortunately, the models are really just showing this little 98L kind of working its way over to Mexico. Erin, for the most part, staying away from land areas, but it is forecast to be a significant hurricane. And then there are other tropical waves that will come off the African coast over the next several days. And those always would have the potential for development, especially as we're here in the month of August. So always best to stay prepared and make sure you get those basics that you can grab right now that are widely available at the store. And there's a lot of stuff that you can do at home, such as making sure you've got plenty of medicine, or you know where you would get medicine if you would have to evacuate. A first aid kit is always good to have. Stuff for kids, stuff for your pets. And then make sure you grab all of your important papers, insurance papers, driver's license, and things like that. You can always take a picture of those with your phone, and then that way you have a digital version of some of your important documents. And that's a lot of stuff that you can be doing right now when there's no threat of any tropical weather coming our way. Well, I hope you enjoyed Let's Talk Tropics. If you do like this video, subscribe to my channel and also turn on those notifications. Remember, you can hear my forecasts on Big 102.1, Planet Radio 106.7, and Freedom 95.1. And remember, for any updates, you can follow my social media pages both on Facebook and X. And thanks to everyone who's already subscribed to Acadiana Weather Today right here on YouTube. Hope to see you on Friday morning for Acadiana Weather Today. That'll be at 7 o'clock right here on YouTube. Have a great day.